Good evening and welcome back to Red Wave USA. My name is Ross Raatz. We're so delighted, or rather I am delighted, to be back once again after a little bit of an extended weekend. I know we didn't have a Friday episode because of Halloween. I knew that I might not make it to the Friday date that we usually have. We usually have our Friday shows. They're quite fun. But we're back on Monday. Right? Not the most fun day, but here we are. So welcome back to Red Wave USA. We got a wonderful show tonight. It's going to be kind of a lot of different topics tonight. We're going to jump around. We got a lot going on right now, a lot more kind of minor things, not too many huge major breaking news things to talk about, but we're going to kind of skip over a little bit and, make our way through these topics. So I'm excited to be back once again. We're going to talk about the major elections. There's a lot of major elections happening tomorrow. We'll get into the one that pulls most of the headlines right now, and that is in New York, right? With Zohran Mamdani, I believe it is, or Zohan, something along those lines. Mamdani, he's the main Democratic guy right now. He calls himself a Democratic socialist, right? So we'll get into that a little bit. We're going to also talk about socialism today. Seems that the Democrats are wanting to move more towards a socialism-run country, right? And that's also very scary. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the government shutdown. I'm not going to bog you down too much with that. Just a little bit, update-wise, we'll get into that a little bit. Some kind of breaking stuff came out over the weekend, so we'll talk about that. I want to talk a little bit, and I've seen this kind of through TikTok. A lot of liberal, influencers or whatever are talking about this whole Erika Kirk thing and how she's showing too much affection to people. I guess she hugged JD Vance in the wrong way over the weekend at the Ole Miss Turning Point event. I don't know. It's ridiculous. We're going to talk and we're going to laugh about it. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about the liberal judges, right? Anything that they can do to stop the Trump administration. They do this in the legislature, the Democratic legislators. They do it there with the whole government shutdown. You see Chuck Schumer leading the way on that one. And then we're going to talk about something a little more funny and uplifting. I'm excited to talk about that. But anyways, thank you again for joining us in the 11th episode of Red Wave USA. Monday, November 3rd, we are in November, so apparently that now means that everything is surrounded by Christmas, right? We're in that phase where Christmas is the next holiday. Let's not forget we have Thanksgiving coming up too, right? But I put up my little snowman. I don't really have many Thanksgiving decorations. I might go around and look for that. Anyways, every show I try and add something to the set. Remember, we're a solo production here. This is all me. I'm doing the editing. I'm doing the talking and the research to bring to my viewers, right? And trying to make a decent looking set. So believe me, it'll get better as we go on, right? We're in 11 episodes now. Very excited about that. I couldn't be more happy. We did a little celebration surrounding our 10th episode. I was very surprised that we made it that far. But anyways, let's get into our topics for today. The first of which is something that is surrounding mainstream media right now. That is the mayoral election in New York. So we got 3 candidates it's really come down to. There's a couple other independents, but they don't really poll much percentage. Right now, the biggest pollers are really only 2. It's the independent Andrew Cuomo, and it's the Democratic Socialist, he's calling himself, or the Democratic primary is Zohran Mamdani. I'm still trying to come around on pronouncing his name, but the Democratic Socialist, Mamdani, he's been the talk of all news stations. Even Trump posted on Truth Social about this guy and how much of a, I don't want to say threat, but how much trouble he's going to be. So anyways, we'll get into that a little bit. And we have Curtis Sliwa, or Sliwa, something along those lines. A lot of interesting names coming out of this mayoral race, but he's the Republican nominee, And again, he's not really polling as well because we know that New York is very, very blue. And you know that it's bad. You know that this whole situation is really a game time situation when Trump is supporting Andrew Cuomo, the old Democratic governor of New York. You know that this is a really big deal when Trump is supporting Andrew Cuomo and not the Republican nominee. He actually said a vote for Curtis Sliwa is a vote for Mandami. You know, that's how you know it's bad. That's how you know this democratic socialism that this party's turning into is the wrong way, right? And we're going to talk about socialism a little bit and this idea because I really got into my political research, I guess you could say, in college. I mean, I kind of had to. That was my major, political science. But I really got into researching this stuff. You know, you go through your prereqs in freshman year, and you're still kind of doing prereqs sophomore year, but that's when you really start your majors the second year. And then third and fourth is pretty much all major classes. So my junior and senior year was all political science, right? But anyways, I want to talk a little bit about socialism because Mandami seems to be the guy that's pushing for socialism and equality amongst everybody, and not the way you're thinking equality, right? Equality for racial divide and things like that. No, he's talking equality for financial reasons, right? And this is why this doesn't work. This whole idea of socialism, it has failed over and over and over again. Our republic relies on free trade. That is the biggest thing, that you have competition in free trade. You have undercutting prices. Let's take Apple, for example. And you have Apple and you have Samsung. These two are fighting over the phone market and electronics market, you know? And if you don't have this competition, let's say we're a socialism country. Let's say we're run under socialism. You have government regulated trade. Every trade, every asset of our economy is government regulated. This doesn't work. We've seen socialism fail over and over and over. I'll bring up one example, the USSR. Obviously, we all saw how that broke down, you know? So anyways, even the Democrats right now, let's bring up the government shutdown for an example. They're talking about how they want to add these subsidies for healthcare, right? And even some are making the argument that they want universal healthcare, universal paid for healthcare. And they're saying that your premiums are going to skyrocket if we don't do this, if we don't push their little subsidies through the funding bill. You're going to skyrocket. You're going to be paying tens of thousands of dollars more in healthcare premiums if we don't pass this. Just a quick reminder, these are all subsidies that were put into effect as an emergency subsidy in the COVID times, the COVID era. And they want to continue these emergency subsidies. Either way you want to break it down, I know Democrats want to push this whole rising in premiums thing, and your premiums are going to skyrocket. Okay, let's take it to the Democrats' way. Let's push these subsidies through, say they get pushed through. And now we're sitting in this government-regulated universal health care sort of route, right? You know where that money is going to be made up? You're going to be taxed on it. In most of these countries where they're running a universal healthcare system, they also pay 50% to 60% on their income taxes towards this universal healthcare. It's still funded by you. So Democrats are going to use this threat or this campaign of that your premiums are going to skyrocket. Okay, well, if we implement this socialism system, your taxes are going to skyrocket. It's a cause and effect system. It doesn't work. It never has. That's why the U.S. has never run on socialism. All right? But anyways, I wanted to go into that and explain that a little bit. And that's what this whole Mandami is running on, right? This whole democratic socialist. That seems to be the new wave of the Democratic Party. And I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work. So if I do have any New York viewers, you know who to vote for. Even Trump had to put on his support for him, Andrew Cuomo. Obviously, Sliwa isn't polling as we'd hoped, but vote for Cuomo. We can't have this, this Mandami guy. We cannot have him in there. It's not going to work. He's never had job experience. We'll move past the whole, I know New York isn't really on our agenda. I live in Michigan, so it's not going to affect me much, but that seems to be the biggest thing in media right now, in mainstream media. So I figured I had to say a little something about it, so I wanted to go into it a little bit and why this whole idea of universal socialist healthcare is a horrible idea, and it's not going to work out the way you think it is, Democrats. So anyways, we'll move on. Now, again, go check the White House website. We're almost there in the 34th day of the government shutdown. That will be tomorrow. And again, still sitting at this divide, 55-45, 14 votes now have been killed by the Democratic Party. And all on this idea of we want health care for Americans. I just talked about this, your premiums will skyrocket. They will. If you don't vote for our subsidies in this funding bill, your premiums are going to skyrocket. And again, we already covered why that's a horrible idea. And again, I don't really understand this whole new take on the Democratic Party, how they're all turning to socialism right now. It seems like that's all my comments in the whole TikTok realm is, wow, you want our health care to skyrocket, your premiums to skyrocket, you'll be paying tens of thousands of dollars more. I know that it's not going to work. You don't have to explain it to me, right? Anyways, we'll move on from that. I don't want to talk about the government shutdown too much because we talk about it all the time, because that's obviously the biggest thing in our nation right now. It's even taking precedent over the protests over ICE. Those have actually cooled down over this whole government shutdown thing. They probably don't, these people that are protesting on SNAP and EBT probably don't have the money to make it out to these protests anymore. But anyways, I want to talk about a little more something, or more or less a remedy that Trump has proposed. I don't really know where I stand on it. There's positives and negatives to both sides of the argument, but Trump is actually pushing to eliminate the filibuster in the Senate, which would make it so we wouldn't need to hit this 60 vote mark and we would just win on a majority, right? We're at 55 votes right now. We need 5 or 6 Democrats to say that they'd like to open up the government, and then we would be there. But anyways, Trump has proposed that Senate Majority Leader Thune should propose this eliminating of the filibuster. And that way we would get the government open by our majority vote of 55 yeas, right? But the speculation that I have on that is that Democrats would just do the exact same thing. If we had majority in the Senate, if they were to be elected, which right now it doesn't look like they're going to have a majority in the Senate, a majority in the House, or even the executive anytime soon, when we look to the midterms and even 2028, it doesn't look promising for them. But either way, if they were to gain power once again, if the Democrats were to gain majority, they could just do the exact same thing if we didn't want to push legislation that they were pushing for. But this could be why Trump is proposing it, because it doesn't look great for the Democrats right now. It doesn't look like anytime soon they will have a majority. So maybe that's why Trump's posing this as a viable option, and then that we don't need to be worried about them doing it back to us because they're not being voted in. Their policies have gone too far extreme to the point where American voters aren't voting for them anymore. We saw it in 2024. Trump won in what you could say was a landslide. And even the House elections and the Senate elections, those, we swept it. But let me remind you once again where we're at. The Democrats have blocked this vote to fund the government 14 times now. We're at 14, and I speculate that it will go a lot further than that because they seem to not want to budge at all. But let me also remind you, I get a lot of comments about this. Trump's taking away your EBT and SNAP benefits and all this. And even the judge, there was a judge that put into law that Trump needs to fund SNAP and EBT while this government is shut down. That is his responsibility, and he needs to find funding to open that and make sure these people are getting their benefits. This is another kind of push at Trump to shift the blame, right? And that's what it's been the whole time. But let me remind you, and I have a graphic I want to show you guys. That'll be pulled up at some point while I'm talking about this. Democrats have voted 14 times now they voted against SNAP and EBT programs, getting those funded through this spending bill. They voted to not pay our military 14 times now. They voted against paying federal workers. That's why we're seeing a lot of layoffs right now. 14 times they voted to not pay federal workers. And look at that graphic. It shows exactly everything Democrats have voted against, right? But anyways, we'll get off of that. I know it's really annoying to sit here and talk about this week after week because Democrats keep deciding to vote against funding our government. They keep voting against wanting to go to work. Hey, maybe that's where this whole socialism thing is coming from. If everybody's equal, they don't really have to work, But anyways, I want to get down to this topic of Erika Kirk because it seems that, the left really doesn't have anything better to do right now. They don't have majority in anything. But they're pushing this conspiracy theory about Erika Kirk, and it's just really, really immature. But what more would you expect from Democrats? I really wouldn't expect much more. But over the weekend, Turning Point had an event. Turning Point, this is Charlie Kirk's organization. He goes to college campuses and talks about conservative values and conservative political points, right? Over the weekend, they were at Ole Miss, and Erika Kirk was introducing J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was actually a speaker at Ole Miss. And while she was introducing him, he came out onto the stage, and she was actually introduced by this wonderful kind of edit of Charlie Kirk talking about Erika Kirk and how wonderful of a woman she is and how strong of a woman she is. But anyways, J.D. Vance comes out, Erika Kirk shakes his hand and then gives him a hug, and she proceeds to walk off the stage, and J.D. Vance continues with the show. Democrats are taking this, the way she was hugging him or something was too affectionate, apparently. So maybe this photo, I'm going to pull up multiple photos of how she's hugged people, and I don't understand. They're nitpicking at this point. Anything that they can get to try and make a point of how terrible Republicans are, and they're scheming or plotting. It's constant throughout the Democratic Party right now, but she grabs the back of his head in a hug or something. And they're even criticizing what she's wearing. She was wearing the Freedom t-shirt that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he got shot. But the leather pants she's wearing are too provocative. Oh, a widow wouldn't wear leather pants. Give me a damn break. I'm so sick of this. It's in all my comment sections. Someone posted a photo. Oh, well, J.D. Vance is going to break up with his non-Christian wife, and he's going to marry the widow, Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika Kirk. It's ridiculous. They're reaching so far at this point, but I wouldn't expect anything less. This is a low common sense group of people, and they're going to push things like this. And us as conservatives, we just have to sit here and laugh at it because it's funny. It's hilarious that you would even propose something like this. But this is what the Democrats focus on. They focus on apparently tearing down a family that's already broken. You're now tearing down a widowed mother of 2 children. I will never understand why you would post something like that, claiming that a widow is going to remarry the already married vice president. They're reaching, like I said, but what more can you expect? We saw how they reacted after the Charlie Kirk shooting. There was thousands of videos of people mocking it, and they're still mocking it today. I don't know if you saw over the weekend the Halloween costumes from extremist liberals. They were wearing Charlie Kirk's white freedom shirt, and they had bloodstains on it, and they had a makeup hole in their neck. It's disgusting. It's immature, but again, that's you guys. That's you guys, Democrats. Remember, that's what you guys are, you're allowing in your party. There's been no condemning any of this behavior at all from anybody. It's sickening. It's really sickening. And I even get it in my comment sections on TikTok most recently. I get all kinds of these pictures of these nasty people, pushing this rhetoric, let alone being called a Nazi and a fascist. Oh, you're part of the Nazi party. I laugh. It's so funny to me. I can't wait. It's kind of the highlight of my evenings, just kind of going through it and looking at these people's comments. It's really so funny to me. This is what they focused on, is tearing down this broken family. You know how hard that's got to be for Erika Kirk to look through social media and see people, mocking her husband's death? It's disgusting. It really is. And one of the other things in my comment section was somebody posted, I get a lot of this acronym, and I didn't know what it was at first. I know I'm a part of Gen Z, but I don't really have the full, I'm not up to date on all the acronyms of the new wave or whatever. But SYBAU, and that apparently means shut your bitch ass up. I had to look that one up because I didn't know what it means, but I get a lot of that SYBAU, and every time I just respond, I'm good. I'll continue to talk, and I'll continue to post on your liberal media site if that's okay with you. But anyways, one of them was even met with a picture of Charlie Kirk a second before he was shot, or as he was being shot, his face or whatever, and it said SYBAU. Just more threats, rather. It's funny, I was talking to my father this weekend, and it was more of a joke. I was telling him about all these radical people in my comment sections on TikTok. YouTube's pretty good. You guys are pretty good. But all these radical people in my comment sections, I was telling him about it. And like, one was the whole Charlie Kirk picture. He told me to shut my bitch ass up, and he posted a picture of Charlie Kirk being shot. Almost kind of threatening me in a way. Someone with 15 subscribers on YouTube, and 19 followers on TikTok. Give me a break, dude. Really? That's where we're at now? Anybody trying to talk conservative values or conservative political talk points is a threat now, It's ridiculous, but again, I wouldn't expect anything different. I really wouldn't. That's where we stand. These people have shown that they can't be negotiated with. Ever since Charlie Kirk, it's just been a constant downhill slide for Democrats. So that's where we stand regarding. I just want to talk about this Erika Kirk thing and how ridiculous it is. But this is what they push. This is what Democrats push, is these ridiculous conspiracy theories. And I understand we have conspiracy theories on the right. I do, but they're not to a ridiculous point such as this one. But anyways, I like bringing these things to you and my viewers so we can sit here and laugh about it. This is a space where we can kind of make fun of the radical left, Anyways, I wanted to also touch a little bit. I know I said a little bit about it when we were talking about the government shutdown, but quote, judges blocked Trump's attempt to require proof of citizenship on a federal voter registration form. So again, this is the left leaning into the ideology that they would like illegal immigrants to be voting in our U.S. elections, whether that be a primary or a midterm. They want non-U.S. citizens to be able to vote in our elections. Do I need to say it again? And how ridiculous this sounds? Tell me one point or one reason as to why this is a good piece of legislation. Again, it's something I can sit here and laugh about. Why would you not want U.S. citizens voting in our U.S. elections? Why would you want non-U.S. citizens voting in these things? I don't understand what possible point you can gain from this other than you want the people you coddle, aka illegal immigrants, to be voting for you. Since you do want to allocate them certain rights, you would like illegal immigrants to be voting for you in these elections. There's no other possible reason that I can see for wanting people to vote, or non-U.S. citizens rather, to vote for you. Again, something we can sit here and laugh about. But anyways, that's where we're at. Judges are now in on all of this extreme leftist rhetoric. Our next judge headline, quote, 2 federal judges ruled that SNAP food aid programs must continue during the shutdown using contingency funds, despite the government being closed, end quote. And again, this is the liberals trying to place the blame of the government shutdown being on Trump. You saw multiple videos of people coming out and saying, Trump's taking away my benefits. He's taking away my EBT food stamps, and he's taking away my SNAP benefits. Now, again, let me tell you once again, 14 blocked votes by the Democrats. That's all I'm going to say. Your Democratic legislators have blocked 14 times for you to get this federal assistance. I'm not going to talk anymore on it. That's all that needs to be said. Do I need to pull up the graphic again of everything the Democrats have been voting against? Anyways, this is what I feel like I have to do is reiterate, because Democrats don't seem to get the point of where they are wrong. Never have. And we saw these liberal judges doing the same thing with the deployment. Trump was trying to deploy the National Guard to Portland. We saw this. They were halting that. They wanted to let the city go into ruin. This is the strategy. Anything that they can do to halt the progress of the Trump administration. Anything that they can do to halt Trump making America great again. Because obviously they don't stand behind the MAGA slogan. So that's their strategy. Is just completely doing anything they can in the legal process to halt this administration. And there will be blowbacks to that. There already is. They're getting absolutely slain in the media for it, but that doesn't seem to be enough. In my opinion, Trump needs to come out in an address to the nation, wherever that be from, the Oval Office or whatever. It'd be really funny if Trump did this address to the nation from the construction site. That's where the Grand Ballroom's going. And again, this is me just kind of rage baiting a little bit, but anyways, I know I try and put forth a positive, or rather something funny. I know we've kind of been laughing this whole show about Democratic policies, right? But I put forth something funny or uplifting that we can look to end of the show. And that was over the weekend, or I guess Friday. J.D. Vance's Halloween costume was the viral meme. I'm sure you guys have all seen it. Was him with this curly hair and kind of fattened up face. J.D. Vance actually dressed as that and posted it all over social media. And this was kind of the trending thing over the weekend, was J.D. Vance dressed as this viral meme. And again, we were all like, no way he actually did it. It was just hilarious. And again, liberals will choose absolutely anything to make a fuss over. And there was multiple people making a fuss over J.D. Vance dressing up for Halloween. How could you dress up for Halloween or celebrate Halloween while the government shut down and people's healthcare premiums are about to skyrocket? Again, we've already talked about that. If you need to hear it again, go to the beginning of the video. But it was actually this guy, his name's Harry Sisson, whatever. And he was making this big deal about how atrocious and un-American it is for J.D. Vance to be dressing up for Halloween. But this is the liberal talking point. This is the Democratic Party right now. This is what they have to do. It's what they have to talk about, because obviously they can't pass through any legislation. They don't have majority. So they're kind of looking to anything they can critique, whether that be Erika Kirk or whether that be J.D. Vance dressing up as a meme for Halloween. It's ridiculous. But anyways, that's about all of our topics for today. I just kind of wanted to make it a shorter episode. I know the long episodes can kind of be, very, you got to sit there and listen for an hour as I ramble on. So kind of want to do a quicker, to the point type of show. Again, a little updates regarding the show, shorter episodes. Again, I'm trying to up production quality. I figured out how to render my videos. That's something new. But we're also looking to make upgrades as in a mic, because this is obviously all through camera audio and it doesn't sound the greatest. And I understand that. Again, we are a low budget show, so we're doing everything with the supplies that we have. So understand that. Again, we're working to better the show in any way we can. The upgrade to the backdrop, I did that, and the upgrade to the kind of atmosphere of the show, we did that, but we're going to be working to make this more professional and make this production more professional, right? So anyways, that will do it for Red Wave USA today. I can't thank you enough for tuning in once again, 11th episode. We're really plugging along here at Red Wave USA. We're starting to gain a following little by little. I understand we don't have the biggest following yet, but you know what? We are trying, and our voice is getting heard. We're getting lots of views, and the subscriber count keeps climbing. So I continue to urge you to like and subscribe, even comment on these videos. I'll try my best to get back to you on all those, but thank you for all of you supporting Red Wave USA from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to me. And we will continue bringing conservative shows to you, and they're not on the greatest schedule. I understand that. Life happens. I'm not always able to come and sit down with you for an hour and then edit for an hour afterwards. But here we are. We're plugging along. We're doing our best. And we're going to continue to make this show great. We're going to make Red Wave great again, right? Or we're going to make Red Wave great. We haven't been great yet, but that is yet to come. Our viral video is yet to happen, right? So, again, you know how I always end these shows. Conservatives, continue to hold your ideals close to you. Continue to be proud to be a conservative. Don't let anyone sway you in your values or your views. Yeah, have that civil conversation. Have that civil political talk with your liberal friend, liberal classmate, or coworker. That's totally fine. But don't let them shame you for having the views that you do. I know that's something that the Democratic Party loves to do, is shame us Republicans for holding the values that we do. And again, don't let them do that. Hold your conservative values out and proud and continue to do that. Again, my name is Ross Raatz. Thank you for tuning into Red Wave USA, and have a wonderful week.